Good afternoon and welcome to 67 Hail Hail. You're joining me, John. You're joining Stevie from our friends at GigPod and the Jersey Doesn't Shrink blog. And we're here to discuss Celtic 3, Dundee United 0. Could have been 10, Stevie. A fantastic performance. How are you feeling after that one?
Great, look at me. They look happy. They look settled, John. Amazing. Just, that was the most complete performance I've seen from the manager and the team so far. As I said, it was more complete than the 6-0 games we saw at the start of the season, the 2-0 game over AZ Alkmaar. A total joy to watch, and that's what just watching Celtic's all about. A huge smile on my face, and as you've seen, John, this is the most content I think you've ever seen me in life, so it says it all.
Believe it or not, Stevie, you know how long we've been doing podcasts on YouTube. I don't think we've ever done a show where it's just us two together. This is a first for the channel, a first for us. So it should be interesting. I'm good for discussing a Celtic win and such a convincing one, because that makes everything so much easier. If you don't know, Hamish is enjoying a bit of well-earned rest today, so I'm hosting and have Stevie on. We'll get right into it. There's actually quite a lot to chat about from the match, given it was so routine. A few talking points, a few bits of dodgy refereeing decisions, a few standout performances. But first, Stevie, I'll just get your thoughts on kind of the way Celtic are starting games at the moment. There's a real intent and intensity to the way they're playing, and I think that's it's setting the tone for the results.
It is, yeah. But we're now going to. I mean, before the game, we did no job. We discussed it. I think every Celtic fan knew that's a very tricky fixture when you look at the three players we actually had out during the week. The kick-off time against Hearts, and then we've got an early kick-off on Sunday. There's not a lot of recovery time there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Dundee United has something to prove. We were talking about it. That's 3 defeats in 5 now for them. And obviously they could have came roaring out the traps. But, it was the first 5 minutes, it was evident it was all going to be about us. We didn't now focus on a lot of what we saw last season before. We were focused on what other teams were doing and how the forms were. And we were very... we were going to games, we were tiptoeing into games, whereas now we're just marching right into our stride. After the first 5 minutes, it was evident. It was all about us playing to our strengths, and even, see if it wasn't working out wide, we've got the 3 guys in the middle, controlling the game, and the biggest one for me is the fact that we kept Fuchs quiet, and we kept that Dundee United midfield, who were really impressive against Rangers back in August. I thought we were going to see a similar type of performance from them today, snapping into everything, first to every ball, and putting us in the back foot. Didn't happen. Celtic bullied them. And not only did we bully them, John, we actually had the skill to back it all up.
Yeah.
And it was just so pleasing to see. And that's what this is all about with Ange now. It's all starting to really click, isn't it?
It's clicking. You know, that I was saying on Twitter, it's like a sign of good management for me that you have players who have been out of the team for a while coming back in and performing to a reasonable level or an exceptional level. And I'm talking about Starfelt on Thursday night, Rogic on Thursday night, Rogic again today, which we'll come on to Rogic a bit more in detail later on. But even the likes of Taylor and Johnston, I don't think they set the world alight today, but they did a job for us and contributed to the team. You thought today was a bit of a referendum on Mikey Johnston. What was your verdict by the end of the game?
I think 55% won it indeed, John, for keeping them in the team. But no, I did say the cliche was out, last chance saloon and all that for Mikey Johnston. Because I've been a big fan. I've always been a mark, if you will. I've always talked him up. When everybody's putting him down, I've always said this is a guy who is so exciting to watch on his day. Problem being, John, on his day, wasn't he coming a lot recently? And I thought when he was thrown into the team recently, he'd been pretty poor, to be honest. And I felt today just because... But then you're using the barometer of how good Jota is as well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's a wee bit unfair because Mikey Johnston's not going to even hit those heights. But I did think, John, for the games Johnston's come in, he's just flattered to deceive, and he's not offered enough. Against Hearts, I thought he was terrible, to be honest, and we were very weak. But he stood up today. He really did. Him and Taylor, who were very much maligned before the kick-off. You said it as well. Before the ball was kicked, people were, I wouldn't say dying to see him fail, but they were just putting the boot in, and before the game kicked off. But I thought he did well enough, and it says it all today, doesn't it? We won 3-0, it was very convincing, and they played their part. So I think it's all about for Mikey Johnston now. But John, it's okay that he's done all right here, but he can't rest on that. I think if you're him, you've got to now say, how can I get to the levels where be a bit ambitious, right? But you're a professional football player, you've got to have it. I think he should be thinking, how can this is my chance to maybe keep Jota out the team. I know it sounds mental, but he could.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And it's all about him and his attitude, about how he can possibly make that left wing place his now. So we'll see what it's going to be like in a couple of weeks. Of course, we all know that Jota's a standout, but he's not going to be in the team now, and it's all about Johnston, and we've got to just support that.
Yeah, if anyone missed that news before kick-off, Ange was on Sky Sports, confirmed that Jota would be out for a few weeks, was the quote, and the Anthony Ralston and Stephen Welsh perhaps not looking to be out for as long as that. So good news on that front, but bad news on the Jota front. So I think, like it or not, we're going to see Mikey Johnston back in his team. And I take Stevie's point in the sense that, you know, Jota probably will come back into the team, but Mikey Johnston's got to believe that he can take Jota's place. Like, he's got to have that belief within himself. I actually thought he grew into the game today in terms of his confidence. I thought he looked a bit sharper in that second half. He looked like he wanted to impact the game a little bit more. I'm pleased I thought he was decent today, and I think there's more to come from him. So we'll see how that develops over the next wee while. Another stand-up performance today, but we can't not talk about Tom Rogic, who was just unbelievable. Interesting because, you know, obviously everyone will talk about his goal, which was majestic. There's words almost can't describe how good it was. But I thought there was a real tenacity to his play today. He wasn't just impacting the game in an attacking sense. He was doing pressing, he was tackling, he was sparking counter-attacks. It was kind of an all-round performance for him today, and it was one of his best in a Celtic shirt this season, which says a lot because of how good he's been.
Yeah, John, before we get into this one, I know that the way I am with Michael Johnston, you have been a big Tom Rogic fan for ages. We've known each other for 5-6 years now, and we've always had real divided opinions on it. I've always been really frustrated about Tom Rogic not lasting games, and when it comes to big games in Europe, frustrating me. You've always stood by him though, and you've always said he's alright. He's probably the classiest player we've got at the club, and I thought today that was just mesmerising from him today. The goal was something else, but as you say, the bit I noticed was that he was getting real physical with Fuchs today. Now, Fuchs was a standout player at Celtic Park against us for Dundee United. He put in a brilliant performance that day in September. But today, I didn't notice Fuchs at all. He was chasing shadows. It was like Tom Rogic was just fitter than him. He was just one step ahead. And not even that, he had just had all the skill to back it up with the physical work he was doing. He was just breathtaking. And I have got to say now, I for all the criticism that I had laid towards Tom Rogic, I'm happy to be proven wrong, because Ange has got the most out of him. With more talented managers, well, I say talented, such as Brendan, for example, he was just lazily saying, no, Rogic can't do 90 minutes, it's just one of these things. Ange comes in, and after a 3 month, the guy's playing the best football he has at Celtic. So what a manager we've got, John.
What a manager indeed. I'm really enjoying the so-called journey we're on. Before we go on to some of the other performances in the team, can we talk a bit about how we're expecting Crawford Allen on Radio Scotland tomorrow? Because there was a number of strange offside calls today. There was that tackle from Butcher. What did you make of the referee? And obviously, he got away with one in terms of not getting a red card there.
Well, John, you're asking me to criticise these wonderful officials in this country. I don't know if I can possibly do that. They do a great job. They try their best. But it was a disgraceful tackle from Butcher. It was horrible. Even seeing it in real time without the replay, you're like, it was just the way that Tumble went down. It looked as if he did him. It was just a malicious tackle. There was no intent to even play the ball there at all. It was just one of the frustrated ones, 2-0 down. He'd been chasing the ball all game, and he thought, I'm just going to do him. So do I think anyone's going to come out and criticise him for that? Nah, not at all. No. It'll be business as usual. Celtic have won, of course, convincingly, John, so there's no reason to come out and make any big statements.
I thought a plane was going to land at Tannadice with them into flags that were going up, so I'm glad that never happened. It was a strange day for all that, but thankfully there's so much good to talk about Celtic that we can kind of laugh about it. Ultimately, you know what? Who I thought had I think might go under the radar today, a performance, was Callum McGregor. I thought he was just ridiculously good again today, like a quarterback, but also again like an all-round midfielder. Some of his passes forward today, some of his chips forward were unbelievable.
Got it all written down here. I've got the exact same things written down here, John. Everything you've just said. Sorry to interrupt. Just a brilliant performance from him. The ball in for Tumble. You're talking about under the radar. I think people. We'll talk about Rogic's goal, but Tumble's was amazing. That touch and the composure to do that, and it was just acted. It was just like I mean, it was one of the ones that if it's a Celtic, if it's done in another league or that, they're going mad about it because of the setting and the venue and the teams involved. We might not hear about it for ages, but I thought it was a wonderful goal. In the past, as you say, with McGregor was exceptional as well. It was a brilliant display by him. A real captain's one today.
There's a few good comments coming in from the chat here. Someone's talking about Liam Scales. I'm going to bring in this comment here from Matthew Wright. Been watching Scales in the League of Ireland and qualified for Rovers before he signed. He loves hovering around the position his goal came from. Would love for him to get a good run now. Really impressive cameo from him, Stevie. Interesting from Matthew right there, because I was kind of thinking similar in the way that he came into a central position to follow up the ball, which is, arguably what Ange has been working on at Lennoxtown in terms of this inverted fullback thing and having his kind of wide players coming in to affect the central areas. About as good a substitution appearance as you'll get.
Mm-hmm. It was good to see. And I mean, I'm not one of these guys. I hadn't seen a lot of Liam Scales. I know that I've seen a lot of fans online on the forums and everything going on about how much potential he's got and how he can play a big part for us. I hadn't seen it so far. Mainly that's due to the players that we've already had in his place so far, how good a job they've done. But he came on, he scored, and there was a lot of players there in that position. John might have just smashed it and might have cracked it as hard as he can, but he was dead composed the way he hit it, and I think it might have took a slight deflection, but you know what, man, you'll take it, won't you? And it's a good thing for him, and hopefully we see. I'd like to see him actually against Betis on Thursday. Yeah,
it's interesting. It kind of felt like him coming on was perhaps Ange priming him for that game on Thursday night. Again, if you missed the comments pre-match, Ange gave some quotes to Written Press over the weekend, effectively saying that he will play, some fringe players on Thursday against Betis, given the fact that it's a dead rubber for Celtic. There's a bit of cash and coefficient points in the line, but that's pretty low stakes in the context of our season and the way this December is. And you'd imagine that the likes of Kyogo, the likes of Rogic will come out of that team, put them in cotton wool for the match against Motherwell next Sunday. That'll be a physical game. That'll be another tough game at Celtic Park, and it's a good chance for the likes of Liam Scales to get a bit of game time. Maybe Lyle Abada will get a start, given Forrest went off today. There'll be others in that squad that are really wanting to get some football into their legs. And is there anyone else apart from the likes of Scales that you're looking to see on Thursday? Anyone in particular?
I was going to say Gigi, but he's away again, isn't he? So
yeah, he's away.
I thought Greg Taylor, for all the abuse he took before the game, and we had a wee light-hearted dig at him as well on the account, but that was all that was. And I'd like to see Taylor obviously get more minutes as well and see what he can offer, because I think we need a lot. We can't have, my thoughts on Juranovic, a left back. I don't like it. I thought today, the balance at defence, John, I thought was very, very telling today. You had Juranovic there, you had Taylor there, you'd Starfelt and CCV in there, and it was just an all-round balanced backline. And I think if Taylor can obviously build up his minutes and get fitter, I'm used to that defence, and that's something I want to see more of. But I wanted to give a wee shout out as well to Starfelt and CCV today, because I said before, I criticised them back against Betis, right, when there wasn't a lot of communicating between the two, and there was a lot of chaos at the back, and it led to 4 very silly goals being conceded. That was CCV just back into the team after missing Thursday, and Starfelt has came back from injury as well as we know on Thursday. Man of the match performance from him, he was brilliant. And then again today, the two of them are at the back. They're their first choice centre back pairing, but you didn't see them they weren't overly communicating today. But I think that's because they're so used to playing each other. There's a real understanding there, and I think you saw that today, to the point where when Dundee United were going forward, we never really felt as if we were under a lot of threat, because we've got the guys at the back now and they look so settled and secure, and that's a great thing for us.
There's actually a couple of partnerships in the team, or a couple of functioning partnerships in the team, where Rogic and Kyogo, I think they're a really good match for each other, because I think Rogic is one of the only players in the squad who has the vision to see Kyogo's runs sometimes. I agree. I think Starfelt and Carter Vickers, that's looking like a good pairing, a good pairing together, and that's what we'll need over the course of the season. I think we'll need to see more of that team unity. But as I mentioned earlier, such a good sign to see players come back into the team after being out and play to the levels required, because for me it's just a real sign that there's good things happening at Lennoxtown, and real focus from the players who aren't in the team. And I believe the players do a lot of homework these days in terms of previewing games and reviewing games. So I'm sure Starfelt has been busy in the book, so to speak, watching all these games that he's missed. And the fact that he's come in and done well is a testament to him. A lot to talk about. We'll talk a bit about Turnbull because he missed a couple of chances in that first half before his goal. But I don't know if this was just me seeing this, but did you think there was a kind of change in approach from Turnbull today? Because I thought he was making a little bit more of an effort to make good direct runs into the box to kind of look for those balls from the likes of Callum McGregor, support Kyogo. I think he's played most of his football outside of the box so far this season. It was a little bit of a change of approach, missed a couple of chances, but then he gets the goal.
See, I thought out of a midfield three initially, certainly I thought Turnbull was the weakest of them. I thought Rogic just stamped his authority over the game. McGregor was dictating the play, but I didn't see enough from Turnbull up until his goal. I thought he was frustrating me a wee bit with the set pieces as well. I think there's been a couple, and there just wasn't enough pace in his deliveries and that. And I didn't really notice too much, but then, and you're saying before his goal, he did break into the box. His miss, I mean, it was like within 5 minutes of each other, wasn't it? His miss was just so lazy. I was cracking up at that. But then he does that, and then he goes on to score such a brilliant goal. But in terms of our midfield three, and as good as his goal was, John, I thought out of them all, certainly he was the weakest performer. But again, that's maybe testament as to how good Rogic and McGregor were today as well. Yeah,
I agree. How are you feeling about this month now? I think we've come through 2 tricky games there at the start of the month, picked up a few injuries. It's going to be a battle, but I mean, the signs are about as good as it can be. I know that I spoke to you earlier in this week and I was saying I'm a bit worried about that game at Tannadice, even before the injuries were picked up on Thursday. I'm not worried at all after that. I mean, that's about as good as a performance, like you said earlier, that we've seen all season, that it came away from home against one of the teams that's been all right in the Scottish Premiership this year. It bodes well for the rest of this month.
It does. I think it's also just about taking it one at a time as well, without sounding like a cliche. But I mean, that was great today, and now the focus. The thing is as well, the Betis game you still want to see is win to carry on a bit of momentum, don't you? But it's not the end of the world. It's the true focus is going to be on the Motherwell game, as you said. It's going to be a real physical battle, and they've got a striker now in some form in Tony Watt, so he'll be I wouldn't say a handful, but he could potentially cause us some issues. But I think I'm confident in our team that we'll be able to nullify that. But I think that's the thing, John. I'm confident now in the team that when you look at these 2 games that we've played, certainly against Aberdeen, actually not the 3 now, the Aberdeen and the Hearts game, we battled through it. But we showed a different side today where we were just emphatic. And it's good that we can now mix that up a wee bit. So I'm confident that we'll be able to go into the next set of fixtures. Despite the injuries we've racked up, I think the system has been implemented, that the team now know their roles and know how to do it. We've got Motherwell, then Ross County, then we've got the final to play, St Mirren, and then St Johnstone, and then Hibs obviously before the Rangers game. But I feel fine. I do. I really do. I feel very confident in the manager and the team, and I think they've done their homework for it. I don't think they're going to go into games complacent. I think they'll set up as best as they can, even if we've got a full strength team or not.
I agree. We're all moving forward in one direction here. Exciting times, and I think we'll leave that there. We've done about 20 minutes there without Hamish. That's not too bad at all. We'll be back later in the week. There's lots of good videos coming up on the channel. Hamish will be back with some of his solo videos. I think we might even have a bit of Japanese transfer chat from one of their experts over there. We've got Scott McDonald coming up on the channel this week. Stevie, you're on Axom later today, is that right? And you got Gig Pod coming up?
We do at 6 o'clock, and for everyone watching, the big news is John Reid and his curtains are likely to be back this year. John, you know just how much they were the star pool last year, so I think everyone's looking forward to tuning in for that again at 6 p.m.
It's good to know that John's still hanging out in Amsterdam. That's all we'll say on that matter. The Celtic State of Mind charity weekender continues, just to plug that a little bit. That's what Stevie will be appearing on later today. We were on it, I was on it, I should say, with Hamish yesterday, raising money for St Mary's Church, who are in need of funds at the moment. So definitely check that out. Check Stevie out where he does his business on GigPod, which is, in my opinion, the best Celtic podcast around. And we'll see you again. Like and subscribe to 67 Hail Hail. Follow the hoops, follow Ange, and most importantly, trust the process. Goodbye, everyone.